April 9th. Thank you. Keep reminding me. I'd like to call the April 9th, 2025 regular governing board meeting to order. Please let the record reflect that it is 6:03 p.m. Today, we have present our fellow governing board members. We'll begin with Ms. Cantu
Present.
and Ms. Jennifer Romero,
Present.
Ms. Cassandra Hernandez,
Present.
and Ms. Denise Garcia.
I am present.
Thank you. And my name is Lydia Hernandez, and I'm the governing board president. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to have, it's going to be offered by Don F. Long Scholars. Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I'd like to introduce joining us today this evening. We've got CEA Representative Jesse Lee and Lori Richards. And our Parent Advisory Council Representative Aide Flores. And we have our land acknowledgement. If I can find it here somewhere. The Cartwright School District is located on the ancestral homelands of the Hohokam, Akimil, O'odham, and Jude people, ancestors of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community, or otherwise known as the SRP-MIC. We acknowledge the rich oral history, culture of these communities, and their ancestral ties to the land. We're going on to item number 5, the adoption of agenda. And do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? And this evening, I'm motioning that we adopt the agenda while moving section D, which is called to the public, to after section H, which is other information and discussion items. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. And I will do a roll call vote. Ms. Jennifer Romero, how do you vote? This is the adoption of the agenda.
My mind just blanked, but I will be withholding my vote.
Okay, thank you. So no vote. And moving on to board member Cassandra Hernandez, how do you vote? The adoption of the agenda.
I vote aye.
Thank you. And Ms. Denise Garcia, how do you vote? The adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Lydia. Before I give my vote, I'd like to apologize to all of the principals and all the leadership
Ms.
who
Denise
have been
Garcia,
intimidated with this horrifying tactic. Mr. Watson, Ms. Lydia Hernandez, and Mr. Victor Hugo Rodriguez has subjected you to. And with that, I will say,
with that, I vote aye,
abstain.
and that's the adoption of the agenda. Thank you. We're moving forward. So we're going on to the consent agenda. I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. And I will take a roll call vote. And Ms. Jennifer,
You start. You start.
and Ms. Jennifer Romero, how do you vote on the consent agenda?
As we are breaking state statutes and
Your
our
vote,
policy,
Ms.
I will abstain.
Your vote. Thank you. An abstention for the
I
record.
was explaining my vote.
And you have abstained. So
Yes,
we're moving
but I was
forward.
explaining my
Ms.
vote.
Hernandez, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And Ms. Denise Garcia, how do you vote?
I abstain.
Thank you. An abstention. And I vote aye. So we adopt the consent agenda as presented.
I
Thank
vote
you.
aye, Madam President. I vote aye as well. No.
Thank you. Ms. Rosa Cantu votes aye for the record. Thank you. Okay, sorry, two different. I'm going between the agenda and the script. Let's see.
ESP principals.
And okay, we're going on to item C6, which is the Cartwright School District teacher, the presentation video.
I am blown away because I would have never expected this. It feels very surreal, but I'm excited. Just seeing the kids excited to come to school every day and seeing them learning and growing is the best part of my job. I think having patience and kindness and treating everybody with respect and dignity is the most important part of my job and the biggest lesson I've learned from my custodians all the way up to the superintendent. I think as long as we treat everybody with dignity and respect, we're going to go miles and miles and miles.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and it lets me know that you see all the hard work that I'm doing, but also what my kids are doing, and that's the most important part for me. Getting to see my kids every day and the growth that we're experiencing, not only in my classroom at Castro, but we had at least 10 8th graders this year who signed up to go be in choir next year as a freshman in high school. So knowing that we're making a difference, not just here at Castro, but in the community is really important to me.
It's undeserved. There's so many people who deserve this more that I see every day in their work, and so thank you so much. I mean, we work all as a team. I love the team here at the center and the parent liaison team as well. It's a fantastic group, so they all make my job much easier. Families are beyond wonderful. The families that we get to work with every day, they're wonderful.
And we have some terrific people that you can see all working here in Cartwright to help our kids learn and grow. And these fantastic people, our Principal of the Year, our Teacher of the Year, and our ESP of the Year are doing some really terrific work with your kids, with our students. And so we just want the entire community to know our staff are working hard, and these are 3 spectacular examples of the love and the service that we're giving your students.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that presentation. I'm going on to item F, which is the second reading regarding the proposed revised policy, GDD, which is about support staff vacations and holidays, and policy GCB, professional staff contracts and compensation. Mr. Watson. And this is our F action item number 1.
Yes, Madam President, Governing Board. This is a second read for the information that was presented at last meeting, making sure that in order to this is actually a way for the district to save money and to make sure that the holidays that are being observed, people are actually earning the right to be able to receive compensation during those days. And so as they are, if they are on leave for whatever reason, when they return, they're not able to receive compensation for those days that they weren't present or weren't working or were on leave. And so if you have any questions, I'm happy to address those.
Okay. And this is just for clarification to make sure that we're continuing the same conversation from our last meeting. This was needed to align the language in the manual, making sure that our staff was able to get compensation. There was some, I guess, discrepancy between the vacation days after holidays and
Yep.
that, right?
So
Okay.
absolutely. So this is to align board policy with what's in the handbook.
Okay. Now, and Mr. Watson, and I think it's might be whomever can answer this. Are we going to continue building on that manual for any changes as we move forward? Are there any more? I think there might have been, but I just want to make sure it's going to be. Want to understand it if it's going to be an ongoing project until we finish aligning it, I guess, so to speak. If there's any other discrepancies that need to be addressed on that as we move forward.
Sure, I appreciate that. Thank you for the opportunity to come and address that. So the professional agreement, the handbook, is very near and dear to my heart personally, and we do revise that every year. So generally speaking, it is brought to the board for approval every year. So sometimes it's in May, sometimes it's in August, depending on how quickly we can get things out through meet and confer. Every time there's a policy change, we update the handbook and bring that back to you. And then it is voted on in its entirety when it's finished.
So, and as we're moving forward, should we in the future decide, let's say, just out of the blue and not that necessarily only because that's a fresh topic for me, but the 4-day, 5-day. So making those changes requires for us to change the calendar, making all these changes that go that need to be done elsewhere aside from just discussing an item and moving forward, right? So it takes a lot of work. So I just want to make sure that
Yes, I mean, when we went from the 5 to the 4, I mean, the committee worked on it for a year to make sure that all of the language, and we're still finding things, to be honest. Most of that now is coming through meet and confer, and we're updating policies as we change language or we negotiate new things.
Okay.
We finally have the language. I'm going to go 90% aligned because, it's never 100, right? We always find things. But yes, it is an ongoing project. So we'll continue to convene, meet and confer as needed.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Madam President, I do have a question.
Yes, Ms. Cantu.
I know you know policy very well.
I try.
I'm very proud of you. But my question, how long has this policy been online with our handbook?
This particular one in question?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's a really great question. I don't feel like it's ever been unaligned per se. I feel like it's just a matter of practice. And there's people in administration that have changed over, and because of that, practices aren't always kept from person to person, right? So it's not so much a change in it. It's just making sure that it's in black and white for people to know, because we want people to know what their employee rights are. So I feel like putting that in writing in black and white where they can refer to it just kind of helps clean that up, where people don't have questions. They know.
Yeah, but I understand that people were getting benefit due to the fact that it was not aligned. It was receiving benefits that were not entitled to, from what it was explained on the previous meeting. So that was my question. How long has that been unaligned or not in?
In current practice, you're saying?
Yes.
I feel like we could be talking about two different things too, because the last meeting we did talk a great deal about FMLA and leave of absence. And those were the ones that we had more difficulties with because the language was so vague, and that's why we defined them very clearly. This one here is just stating that you have to be in good status with the district. You can't be in a dock status if you want to get paid for the holiday. So to be honest, I don't know how often they've paid that out because that's a personnel issue. So I wouldn't be privy to that information. I just know that to make sure it was clear to people, because we got a lot of questions as CEA about, well, can I get paid for this or can I get paid for that? And that's why we decided to put it in black and white so people didn't have to question that. They just knew.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. And moving on to item number 2, we've got the approval to renew medical and vision benefits.
Madam President, if we could vote on that, that would be spectacular.
Oh, that'd be nice. And because this is a second reading, right? So I move that we adopt the second reading, which would be the approve policy GDD, support staff vacations and holidays, and policy GCB, professional staff contracts, and compensation. Um, and with that, I'll go on to a roll call vote.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. And I will take a roll call vote. Ms. Jennifer Romero, how do you vote on item number 1, action item?
First, I will explain my vote. As we are breaking Arizona state statutes and our own policy, I will be abstaining.
Thank you, Ms. Romero. And Ms. Cassandra Hernandez, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. And Ms. Denise Garcia, how do you vote on action item F, second reading regarding proposed revised policy GDD and GCB?
Abstain.
Okay. An abstention for the record. And I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 2, approval to renew medical and vision benefits with Valley Schools and dental benefits with Delta Dental for fiscal year 25-26. Mr. Watson.
Yeah, Madam President, Governing Board, this is our current supplier of health and dental care, and we have been using them, and they have provided a service that we've been using. Pretty candidly, we're a little late in this process. This is a process and a conversation that regarding maybe looking for some other vendors or having some conversations about some savings. But we're bumping up against some deadlines, and we have a contract in place with them that needs your approval if we're going to continue with them on for this next year. And this would need to be done sooner than later so that we're able to open the portal to allow all of our employees to be able to access their benefits for the upcoming year. And candidly, the service that we've been receiving from them, it's been a good service. It's a service that this is a company that many districts throughout the state use, and they are experts in the field, and they also do throughout the process help our staff here in the district office when questions arise. They help with identifying communications that we can put out to the teachers and staff regarding some of the finer details. And so they've been a good partner to work with, and we will. This is a recommendation to continue that contract.
Okay. And Mr. Watson, will this allow us an opportunity to continue throughout the year? Obviously, always looking for just for the most benefits we can get for our employees.
Absolutely, Madam President. This will allow us to continue with them, and absolutely, we want to take a look at every possible efficiency. We want to be able to even go to our current vendor and maybe look for some savings or renegotiate some of our finer points. But this is needed as we move forward in the short term with this next school year to be able to provide the coverage that our teachers and staff need and deserve.
All righty. Thank you.
Madam President, Mr. Watson, one question. Do we in the past or recently had done a survey regarding the benefits if our employees are okay with those benefits, or there were better benefits in the previous company? Or I mean, we're always going to go for something that
Sure.
it's more doable for the district, more affordable. But I mean, we also need the input from personnel to see how is that working for them as well.
Yeah, Madam President, Ms. Cantu, I am not aware of any survey data that I've currently seen. I've been here for just a few months, but we definitely want to get kind of the pulse of the recipients of healthcare and dental care to see if it's meeting the needs of our employees. Absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Watson.
All righty. I move that we approve the renewal medical vision benefits with Valley Schools and dental benefits with Delta Dental for fiscal year 2025-2026. Do I have a second?
Second, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. And I will And Ms. Cantu, how do you vote? I'll begin
I
with
vote
you.
aye.
Thank you. And moving on to Ms. Romero, we are voting to approve to renew the medical and vision benefits with Valley Schools. How do you vote?
Okay, first I would like to explain my vote. I believe that our employees, of course, deserve insurance. This has nothing to do with you guys. Due to us breaking state statutes and our own policy, I will be abstaining.
For the
But know
record,
that I do appreciate our employees very much.
thank you. Please let the record reflect that Ms. Romero is an abstention. And going on to Board Member Hernandez. And this is voting to approve the renewal medical and vision benefits. How do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And moving on to Ms. Denise Garcia. How do you vote?
Thank you. And I second what Jenny said. We appreciate you immensely. Thank you for everything you do. I will abstain.
Please let the record reflect that's an abstention, and I vote aye, and motion carries. So we've approved the renewal medical and vision benefits with Valley Schools. Moving on to item number 3, I have the approval of Southwest Food Service Excellence. I'm not making the motion just yet, but to allow for discussion. But this is the approval of Southwest Food Service Excellence, which is SFE. This is renewal as third-party food service management company. So this is the company that provides our food to our kids. Mr. Watson.
Yeah, Madam President, we use a third party to provide our food services throughout the district. And this is the company with whom we have a contract. This is to continue, Mr. Etheridge, year 4? To continue in year 4 with this company, part of a 5-year contract that needs to be renewed every year. I know that there has been, when SFU was adopted as the vendor to provide our food services, I know that there were some conversations, some spirited conversations around that. And if we decide that we don't want to use them as a vendor, we will have to decide how to proceed between now and July 1st. That is the end of the fiscal year. And so we do have lunches and meals that we provide throughout the summer. And if we decide not to continue with this contract at this time, we'll have a short time. We'll have a few months where we will have to spin up an entire food service program here in the district. Not insurmountable, but would definitely be a challenge.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Obviously, we need to be able to provide it, and I know the timing. There's always an issue with time, right? Since we're just dealing with this now, I was one. I've always had, for the record, always had concerns regarding it was, I guess, a disalignment in terms of whether, it's a big change from being able to provide our own food service, having our kitchens operating in a certain way, and then you go and adopt a different way of operation. And so it changes. You got to change those gears and go back. This is a very hefty contract for the district. This was a multi-year contract that was awarded for $22 million. You correct me if I'm wrong, for $22 million, and this is going to be, you just asked, 4th year out of 5. So we still have 1 more year to go. But I'm still receiving some feedback from some of our stakeholders regarding the order in which we're not able to produce the menus that we'd like. I'd like for us to continue as we move forward. Certainly, I'm not, we can't cause a great, another great scheme or change in how we're doing this. But we've always got to be looking and aiming to provide a different variety of menus, diversification, but being able to really roll out those menus. We wanted fresh fruits and vegetables, and I know there's also an issue, and I think I'd like for you to share, because I thought that was interesting, and I think it's information that needs to be shared in terms of our how we purchase the fruits and vegetables, and that's also something that when I looked at I'm looking closely at our expenditure sheet. I mean, I'm questioning, and I'm saying, wait a minute, didn't we just contract with somebody? Why are we paying for the goods and services for fresh? Could you?
Yeah, Madam President, happy to talk a little bit about that. So we receive, we're basically reimbursed for for the food, for the money that we spend on meals for our children. And we have this contract which takes care of the majority of that. But we also have a relationship with the Arizona Department of Education where we're able to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables, provide those to cafeteria and staff and food workers to be able to add to the meals provided to our children. And that is also reimbursed through a grant through the Arizona Department of Education. And Madam President, if I may, we're always looking for ways to save the district money. We're always looking for ways to put more money back into the classroom. And with the direction of the governing board over time, if we know that we want to just be able to look at different things and have those conversations on just look at different ways to save money through various contracts, at the direction of the board, we can take those, we can take those actions over time. And so I know that since I've been here, I've gotten some terrific feedback up here on the dais about opportunities for just change and to do things a little bit differently than we have been. And so that is absolutely something that we always want to look at moving forward and setting those timelines and dates so that we have enough time to make change.
Thank you, Mr. Watson and or Dr. Etheridge. What is our general budget? The annual budget that we for Cartwright District in as a whole.
Oh, Dr. Etheridge, do you want to just chime in on this? So not just the food budget, but
just our general
just
budget,
the general budget as a whole.
Because I want to be able to contrast, the size of this contract and what that means to our district, so that our stakeholders and everybody's aware of that as we move forward to the future, to the other conversations that we're going to take a dive into.
Thank you, Madam President. Governing board members, Superintendent Watson, executive team, all those in the audience. So honestly, it's a little bit hard because there are just so many different funds to go off of. So I can tell you, like, our M&O budget's $116 million. Total, I believe our budget is about $250 million for all funds combined.
$250 million. And so the food service contract just alone is currently, I want to say, 22 million. It's what it was approved for. It's a multi-year contract.
Madam President, yes, it's about, we pay SFE about $4.5 million per year. So
okay,
over the 5 years.
Thank you, because we continue to get feedback, and I know that was a major change and shift, and I think that there's still some alignment, that fine tuning, I should say, that still needs to be done in order for us to be able to roll out the menus as intended originally. And we're looking at 3 years already. So moving into our fourth. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Etheridge, before you leave, sorry, Madam President, I'm sorry, Mr. Watson, and everybody in the audience. We bless you. We did. When was the last time we renewed contract with this company?
Madam President, Vice President Cantu. So this is an annual renewal. So the RFP is a 5-year term, and this is the fourth, the original plus 3 renewals. So this is the 4th year.
The 4th year.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
I believe you're meaning to the renewal of the annual contract, which was about April 2024.
Madam President, that sounds about right. I don't quote me, but it sounds about right.
It was last April that we had.
Right, before the fiscal year ending. So now we're in 2025. So it's before us again.
Yes, and that's where I'm trying to figure out. Last time, and if I remember clearly, it was $22 million. They were, so it was divided into the 4 years.
Madam President, Vice President Cantu, the 5 years. Yes.
5
so,
years.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
And are there any other sources that had offer their services? And I'm just going to be a little bit careful on this one because you know what happened to our neighbor district, right? So I don't want that to happen to our
Thank you for
district.
bringing that up. If go ahead, I'll let her.
And that for that reason, I'm a little hesitant on this. If this is within our budget and we're not going to close schools next year, I just want to make sure that we are doing the right thing and the benefit of the entire district and the employees and the children. I know their food is not the best quality because I have received calls from the community, but I also want to agree that this is not going to jeopardize our budget.
Madam President, Vice President Cantu, absolutely, 100%. I think that's important to take a look at. I will say that I just received the financial statement for March for our food service program, and we actually currently stand at about a surplus of about $2 million right now. So we are creating a surplus in that fund.
I have a question. May I have a question. Can you direct your questions to the president, please?
Lydia, I have a question.
Ms. Hernandez, please.
Fellow board members, everyone in
Okay.
attendance. Victor, didn't you do a survey? You presented a survey to families requesting, or what you wanted to know what their thoughts were regarding the quality of the food. Isn't that correct? And I believe that when you had presented, the families loved the food. So I'm kind of confused. Would you please share that?
Good evening, Madam President, Mr. Watson, Governor Board members, executive team. I have little recollection of that. I do remember doing a presentation and we did survey the parents compared to the quality of food that they were getting before to what has been provided now. Families were very satisfied with that. But I have no other recollection of that. I think we did this about 2 years ago when I first started working here.
Thank you. Yes, I do remember that the families were very happy with the quality of food. So just so we're clear on that, maybe perhaps another survey might be needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Etheridge. And just going to, before I forget, I know you mentioned something about things that have taken place and impact. It's a large dollar amount and it does impact the budget. The reason, and I think I saw that same, if I can remind Dr. Etheridge of the question that I asked when I saw the expenditure for the uh, fruits and vegetables that we were purchasing and why they're being encumbered. But when I thought we weren't paying for that when we have the a contract for them to provide that. And I have heard from some of the schools where we're not getting the product in time so that we're able to provide the menu that looks so great and fantastic and dynamic in the brochures. Not that they're not doing a good job, not that they're not. I'm saying why there's a discrepancy that I think we need to fine tune and ensure. But we're having this conversation now, and we are in the fourth year for the record. Once, if we were to approve it now, we're working on the fourth year, and we still haven't fine tuned and aligned when the kitchen staff is able to get and start to work on those menus. So in the absence, in the order of those fruits and vegetables, we're not able to produce that menu. So going back to the question with ADE, I saw that being encumbered. So, and it takes a while. So if you could just tell us why am I seeing the amount being encumbered somewhere else and how that works with ADE, because we're relying on somebody else to pay. In the meantime, we're paying.
Absolutely, Madam President. So the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program is a separate program from the National School Lunch Program. And currently we are working, because currently we are, as Cartwright, are paying directly for those fresh fruit and vegetable. And really, we're talking about should SFE go through that. But regardless, the reason that we're seeing that encumbrance is this is grant funds and it's a reimbursable grant up to the amount of the expenditure. So we're not making any money off the fresh fruit and vegetable program, but we're not losing any money off the fresh. It's a neutral, it's a cost neutral. We get reimbursed for what we spend for that program. But that's a separate program. That's a program that will provide fresh fruit and vegetables, almost like a snack, either a morning snack or an afternoon snack. The purpose of that program is to just get kids to, interested in fruits and vegetables. They, papayas or something they might not generally see in the store or eat, in the store, just to get them excited about some of those foods. So it's a separate program from SFE, but there is discussion on who should that program go through. Should that program go through the Cartwright Food Service directly, or should SFE purchase that and take that on as well? But either way, it's not costing the district any money because we have the grants that reimburse us for that.
And we get reimbursed, but it's not quick enough. And what I'm seeing is we encumber it. So I'm glad to say that we're in a position to be able to do that. But in the event, let's say in the event, worst case scenario, I'm always saying, if we don't have that amount, if we're not in that position anymore, which we'll be discussing right now in the next item on the agenda, or a few items down the road. If we weren't in that position, and what I've seen happen with other districts is we're going to get that money, but we're going to cover it now. And if we're not in a position to cover it now, then we've seen what happens and we're out. It doesn't mean that I mismanaged. That's how it works. And if I'm not getting reimbursed for those monies, then somebody's got to pay for it.
Madam President, I understand what you're saying. So if you look at on the consent, we always have the budget for monthly, the budget and expense statement, and there's always one number that's negative on that, and that's the fresh fruit and vegetable program because it's a reimbursable grant. So you're absolutely right. We put the money up front, and then we get reimbursed. And you are also absolutely right that a neighboring district grant funds was kind of the what card that brought it all down. Like it was because some of the grant funds they prepaid thinking that they were going to get the grant reimbursement and they never did. So that's a very valid point.
Thank you for that. I just think that was just an open conversation to ensure that we understand, because I do see that I was seeing those numbers comparing month to month, and I said, why are we out this money and not? But I understand it's a grant, but we're in a good position to cover it. But if we should not be, those are the dangers of when we change things. Mr.
Oh, no. This spot on with just the dangers there, and just making sure that we have the resources to expend the funds initially so that they can be reimbursed. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Here it goes. I move that we approve the Southwest Food Service Excellence renewal as third-party food service management company for 2025-2026. Do I have a second?
Second, Madam President.
Thank you. I will take a roll call vote. Your vote as well.
I'm not very happy to take this vote, but I will die.
That's fine. No. This is what these discussions are for. We have been taking having those discussions and moving forward. Ms. Romero, how do you vote?
First, I will explain my vote as we are breaking, due to the fact that we are breaking Arizona
Ms.
state
Cantu,
statutes
Ms.
and our own policy. I will be abstaining.
Thank you. Please let the record reflect that's an abstention. And we are voting to approve the Southwest Food Service renewal. And Ms. Hernandez, how do you vote?
Before I vote, I'd like to explain my vote. Walking door to door collecting signatures. Thank you, by the way. I met, and this is just for the record, I met with some former cafeteria employees who no longer work for the district. There was a meeting, and I don't remember, they didn't even remember themselves what day it was, but it had been quite some time now because it's, the next
I really don't remember when it was, but they explained to me that they had a protest over this. It was a lot of parents. The community was really upset with they the outcome of what this company program did with our schools, and I think that that definitely impacted the lunch that were brought out to our kids because they didn't have the proper foods and materials. The food wasn't made properly, and so, but with that, I vote aye.
Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And Ms. Denise Garcia, how do you vote?
I concur with Jenny in that we remain out of compliance. I therefore abstain.
Thank you. Please let the record reflect that's an abstention. Um, there were a lot of issues with those in transition involving other board members that that we've dealt with and moved forward. Um, and I just before my final, I cast my vote, Mr. Watson. I just want to ensure that moving forward that we're taking into consideration any opportunity for fine tuning, aligning, ensuring that we have the fruits and vegetables ready or whatever it is, the items necessary to really produce the menu that we have, as well as ensuring that staff has the equipment and the tools to be able to perform and get that out in the best possible way for our kids. And with that, I vote aye.
And I'll just add, Madam President, we want to extract, for lack of a better word, the best quality from all of our vendors and the best service that we can possibly get. And so, absolutely, we're committed to having the conversations. And if there's a part of the product that we're getting from SFE that needs to be improved, we will have those conversations with them and ensure that they're delivering the best product possible for our students, which is a healthy body through quality food. And so we will absolutely take the conversation that we've had here on the dais and take it back and share it with them to ensure that we're delivering the best possible food to our students.
Thank you, Mr. Watson.
Madam
Ms.
President,
Santo.
I also have another question regarding this. Who oversees the food program from our superintendent level? Who's in charge of the food program?
Madam President, we have people here we have SFE employees who work here in the district office, and our finance team, I've communicated with them. I've actually sat down and had lunch with them in the bistro. And so we've been having these conversations, and it's the team that is interfacing and working with them.
Okay, so I would like to see a more how could you say it, a more thrill oversee that department to make sure that perhaps we have to put up with them for another year, at least to provide the kids with the quality of food that they deserve.
Absolutely.
If it's possible.
Thank you. Thank you. And just for the record, want to make sure that motion carries. So the approval of Southwest Food Service Excellence has passed. And I am moving on to item number 4, the approval to authorize the annual expenditure amount authorization for Fusebox LLC for school year 24-25. Dr. Medrano.
Okay, thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Watson, and audience members in attendance. This item is a request to increase our not to exceed threshold for Fusebox. Just a little bit of background on the services that they provide. Our guaranteed savings agreement project that we had done with Verigy about 4 or 5 years past now. Verigy had continued the monitoring of our utility usage, electric, water, as part of that agreement, which ended up expiring last fall. So at that point, we had engaged with Fusebox to help us to continue to monitor the preventative maintenance of our solar panels. And about a year ago, we had also engaged with Fusebox so that they can do the monitoring of our electrical usage, our water usage, gas usage, and solar production across our district, just to make sure That service is very helpful because it helps us make sure that we're staying on track to hit our annual guaranteed savings amounts. And so the original service that we had gone in partnership with Fusebox for was to, they basically send us email alerts. They have a system that monitors for each site. What does our electrical usage look like? What is our water usage looking like? And if they notice if there's any spikes in usage at any point, they'll send us an alert, at which point we can put a work order into our work order system so that our B&O team or a site maintenance lead can go out and investigate, just for example, a possible water leak. And we could do something to fix that. So Fusebox has continued doing those original services this year, the monitoring of our utility usage. But this year we also we added on because Verigy they had expired their monitoring of our solar panel performance. We had brought Fusebox aboard to do preventative maintenance on our solar panels 2 times per year. So in order to be able to cover that additional service, which is very important because they make sure that all the connections on the solar panels are working right, that the inverters are doing what they're supposed to be doing so that the solar power goes into our buildings, and just making sure that, that there's no obstructions to the performance, checking solar panels to make sure that there's not any items that are thrown up there inhibiting the performance of the solar panels, cleaning out the electrical components, cleaning the solar panels themselves, replacing broken ones. So that service is just very helpful because it helps. We're assured that they're getting eyes on that at least 2 times per year, and making sure that the panels are performing to the level that we need to meet our guaranteed savings marks. So this request is to ask for the increase up to $200,000 for this year, so that we can cover the services of the utility monitoring and also the preventative maintenance on our solar panels.
Thank you, Dr. Medrano. And this was one of the items I believe, that we were originally going to put in the consent agenda, but I asked that we leave it out for discussion, because as we prepare for the agenda setting, we have discussions on items, contracts especially, and again, I'm going to mention that we're going to be diving into our financials. And so I'm trying to be as careful that we can to make sure that questioning contracts and in terms of what they do, the expectation, how we're doing with them, are they working for us before we approve that again? And I know there was an increase because I'm seeing a pattern, not necessarily with this one, but with all of them. I think I was confronted with several contracts, and the pattern was that we're increasing by 700,000. We're increasing by 200,000. We're increasing. Everything's an increase, and I'm thinking, we ought to be in a position to be able to negotiate. And I also understand the inflation. Everything's going on, the goods and products and services. So just so that I understand it, this is it's not a utility service provider like light or water or internet or something. However, but they simply monitor for us the usage. So how much is the contract amount? It's 200,000 that we're approving? Is that the number that you just mentioned?
Madam President, that is correct. This contract is for utility monitoring for preventative maintenance of our solar panels. The preventative maintenance on solar panels for 2 times per year is just a shade over 92,000, and the utility monitoring, Dr. Etheridge, if you can help me with that one.
So 125 is the solar panels, and 65 is the utility monitoring.
Okay, thank you.
So again, that was 125,000 for the solar panel monitoring maintenance. Okay, so 65,000 for the so together that's the 200,000. I do have concerns with that. I don't know if anybody has any other discussions regarding the cost savings, but the solar panels are throughout, very visible throughout our district. They look great, But my question of concern is always, are we getting the best bang for our buck? Um, when we approve a contract like this, they're monitoring for us. But they're also, I like the fact that somebody is providing maintenance because um, as much as I'm a support, I understand the climate change and trying to do the best that we can with our utility services in the footprint, if you will. Um, we it puts us. I'm just looking at where we could, moving forward, save and asking the board, I think, to really do our due diligence when we approve contracts, different types, variety of contracts, because we have deeper implications and impacts. So let's say we're getting ready for the day that, you know what, the solar panels are working out great. We're going to save energy at one point, but just from our, working with families throughout many years here at Maryville, there's been a push. Um, Obviously, we're in the desert; we get sun, the majority of our year, so it should be a cost saving to homeowners. But a lot of the times, what I'm encountering is a lot of problems that they're having, either because they weren't installed correctly. You got to follow up. The person that sold them is no longer there. Then they're left with this, this big item that is going to cost them. It costs them more to repair than putting off their cost savings that they're not seeing. So, are we, in terms of our solar panels, now we're, uh, I don't know whether that was something we discussed when we approved the solar panels, but this is a pretty hefty amount, of maintenance annually that we've had to add as a burden to the, to our current existing um, budget.
Madam President, yes, those are some very good points. Um, the level of service that we've received from Fusebox has been pretty satisfactory. They're very on top of making sure that we get email alerts anytime they see a spike. They do year-to-year comparisons. So as an example, December 2023, you guys were utilizing this much water over at Estrella. December 2024, we're seeing an 85% increase. You may want to have your team go out and look for a leak. So they're very consistent. They're very on top of the system that they're monitoring, and they have very good communication with us. In terms of our savings, Verigy is part of that agreement. They provide us with a measurement and verification report every year following the execution of the contract. In the first year of the first measurement and verification report that we received, which was for the 2022-2023 school year, we did meet our guaranteed savings for that year. We did not bring Fusebox on until last year, though, so that we'll know a little bit better of what the impact is from the Fusebox monitoring services that they're providing for us. But in year one of measurement and verification, we did meet our mark. The expected mark was 1.87 million in savings. We were a little bit over 2 million in savings, but that was a combination of the solar panels, the water efficiency upgrades that we did, putting all of our HVAC systems on an automated energy management system, so it schedules, when we're here and turns off when we're not, and on the weekends and holidays and things like that. So we have met our marks. Having quantitative data on what our outcomes have been since we've been using Fusebox, we'll know when we get this next measurement and verification report. But as far as the quality of the service itself, they've been very consistent and pretty excellent communication with us.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Medrano. And no reflection on the company. It's just as we move forward, when we're looking at contracts, we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence, and that when we go purchase, build large items, there's always something that's needed in addition that wasn't equated into it, and then into the original budget. And because I'm seeing all these increases in hundreds of thousands of dollars per contract, um, I'm concerned about that. So, but no reflection on the service, just for us doing our due diligence moving forward to ensure that when we're purchasing those items, we make sure that we've got the monies and we know the expected amount that we're going to expend. Thank you for that,
Madam President. Mr. Watson.
Ms. Cantu.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Medrano, perhaps we can have a presentation on the effectiveness of the solar panels that we have across the district, so we can see what the total cost of those panels were and how much money we have saved or being reimbursed for it. I will really, really appreciate that. And I don't know if approving this contract right now will give me the an idea of what is the effectiveness of that this company on top of the expenses that are already being made throughout the district, because I believe it was quite a few millions that were spent on shade for the parking lot. So I would like a very extensive presentation on the effectiveness of the solar panels, along with this company to do a presentation and see if they are really applying those benefits to our district, if
Well,
possible.
Ms. Cantu, just for clarification, so it sounds like the company Fusebox, what they're doing is, well, they're not responsible for the solar panels, but they provide maintenance and monitoring and upkeep.
That's okay, but it's related to that.
Okay.
We are spending money for somebody to tell you you have a water leak, and I need to understand with details the company to come and explain to the community what is it that they're doing to, or they can do a better job perhaps, not just throwing a contract there.
And no reflection on, again, for the record, no reflection on the company. But I know in the past I've had concerns and issues where they're needed. There's a reason for it, and not necessarily that one that's we've employed, but the monitoring piece, turn off the light, turn it off, and it's $1 million contract. So at a time when either we weren't in a great situation, it has an impact. So if I'm understanding that, we could add that to the list moving, when we get to the appropriate. Now, Ms. Cantu, were you? This is the first time that we're discussing this Fusebox. So, oh,
I
sorry,
just
I'm sorry, Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have a quick question. I do like the idea of the maintenance that this company has to offer. I think it is needed. However, I do agree with Ms. Cantu. I would like to, because I am new, and I would like to understand a little bit more, get a little bit more in detail, how they help us and what they do. But I do have a question about the solar panels. How long ago did we get the solar panels initiated with our schools? How?
Madam President, Board Member Hernandez, I believe that all of the solar panels for all of our campuses got fully commissioned and operational as of the 22-23 school year. But they were phased in over time. The early ones, I think, started in the 2021 school year, if I remember correctly.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think we're also gonna go into a deep dive regarding the bond monies and how they were used. So, Mr. Watson, let's see, where is that? Item number 4. I move that we table the approval for the authorization of the annual expenditure amount for Fusebox LLC, just to have the conversation. Again, no reflection on the company. We just want to know a little bit more since we're new to that or to this. Do I have a second?
Second, Madam President.
Thank you. And since we're going to a vote to table this item, how do you vote on tabling the item number 4, action items?
I vote aye.
Thank you. And Mr. Enrico Romero, how do you move on the approval to authorize the annual expenditure number 4?
Due to us breaking Arizona statutes and our own policy, I will be abstaining.
Thank you. Please let the record reflect that's an abstention. And Ms. Hernandez, how do you vote?
I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Garcia, how do you vote?
I second that we remain out of compliance and I abstain.
Abstention. And I vote aye. So we table the item. Okay. Thank you. And going on to approval of corrections to 25-26 work calendars. Mr. Watson.
Yeah, Madam President, we have previously brought calendars to you, calendar updates as we are looking at various dates of holidays and making sure that our calendars align to the required number of workdays for every employee. We've made some updates to the calendars, corrected some items, and present the new calendars for your approval.
Mr. Watson, when did we approve the last work calendars? Previous? Oh, okay.
Madam President, November 7th.
Thank you, Dr. Etheridge. I remember the conversation. I just couldn't remember when, but I knew it was before January. And we're making some changes to the work calendars. And Mr. Watson, is that for alignment, or why are we making what type of changes are we making to the calendar?
Yeah. So, Madam President, Dr. Etheridge Dr. Etheridge, can you please? But as he's walking up there, he's kind of spearheaded the calendar committee a little bit. But so yes, as for example, we have a situation this month where we just have a kind of a weird day, and maybe it wasn't planned very well in previous calendars, and we have some people coming to work and other people not coming to work because we have a ESP calendar, we have a certified employer or employee calendar. And then various other calendars. And so we have been doing a deep dive on the calendars to make sure that when everybody's coming to work on the same day, and when there should be a day where nobody should be here, everybody has that same day off. And so those are some of the things we're looking for in the calendars. And we've also tried to make the calendars a little bit easier to read by taking some of the just some of the superfluous information that we had on these calendars. We've taken them off so that just each entity has their own calendar that is simple and easy to read. Dr. Etheridge, would you like to add to that?
Madam President, Superintendent Watson, that's exactly right. So the driving force behind this was it's the day after the Easter holiday, and that's Monday. Students are not in school. And on the current calendars for this school year, there was some confusion as to whether 10-month ESPs work, whether they don't work. Certain groups didn't think they worked and they hadn't worked in the past, but now they were on the calendar to work again. And so that was this year, but it led us to look at the calendars that have been approved on November 7th and realize that if we didn't bring back the work calendars for correction, we were going to run into the exact same situation that we did this year. And so that was kind of what started this. But as we went through some of these work calendars, we were noticing some, one of the work calendars had the week of July 15th through the 21st twice. Like July, if you looked at the calendar, it was July 15th through the 21st, July 15th through the 21st. So some of those minor corrections. And as we were going through this, as Superintendent Watson said, is that we had a lot of different colors going on and a lot of different, keys in the thing. And I think that was what was causing some of the confusion as to how many work days there were in the month and things like that. So this really just worked to clean up those calendars. The big day for the work day piece of that for next year is April 6th. That was what the day that was corrected. The rest were more kind of cosmetic changes to the calendar. And the specifics are listed in the rationale, so you can see each one.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Etheridge. Do you have a question?
I have one more question.
Okay, Ms. Cantu.
It's not working.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Etheridge, in this, it says work days. It's not the same as instruction days?
Madam President, Vice President Cantu, that's correct. So the work days, depending upon what calendar you're looking at, if you look at, for example, an administrator calendar, like a 12-month admin calendar, their work days are 261. Their total days are 261. Some of those are work days, some of those are holidays, some of those are paid non-work days. When you're a salaried staff, the number of total days don't matter too much because you're paid a salary for how many work days you work. The ESPs, the hourly employees, that's when you can take a look at the total days to see which ones are paid and not paid.
Okay. Um, as we speak about the calendar, and I don't want to throw anything out there but in my mind, just I'm speaking out of my own thinking, uh, if we move into 5 days uh, calendar, that also has to change, right? Because right now we have how many days of instruction? I remember uh, Jesse Lee mentioned last time 146, but the state law says it has to be 180, correct?
Madam President, Vice President Cantu, it's actually instructional minutes that they take a look at. So
The instructional minutes.
correct. So it's
Okay.
not a set number of 180 days. It's as long as we meet the instructional minutes.
Okay, so 140 days total.
Meets
the
the
year.
instructional minutes for that purpose.
Okay. So we're gonna have to work on this.
Sorry, I hit the wrong button. Madam President, Ms. Cantu, going back to this idea of instructional minutes, we added 15 minutes at the beginning and end of the other 4 days. The 4 days by their own would not have met the instructional minute threshold, so more time was added to the school day. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that that was clear for everybody.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the clarification. Yes, but we're gonna have to continue working on the calendar as well because there is changes coming.
Sorry. So that's a great question. So in order to fulfill the need, the expectations, it was added 50 to 15 minutes. Is that to the day, to the school day?
At the beginning, and so a total of 30 minutes to each of the 4 school days.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Etrish.
You're welcome.
No, that's fine. Just noticing a change. We do have an extra seat, Ms. Hernandez, on this side. If you're willing to move or if you feel better, but just offering that for you. Thank you. Dr. Etheridge, before you walk away, it needs to happen. I'm asking for the alignment where the alignment's not, where it's not, we're doing things that we say we're going to do. The intention is recognized. The good intention is recognized in good faith, but we're having to catch, take corrective action continuously to not just the calendar. And we're probably going to be doing that in the future as well, as moving forward. And I just want to make sure that the board members ask, just moving forward, that we do our due diligence when we make changes. So we have discussion on the dais here because this is the only place where we can have that discussion to fully explore the implications that our decisions that we do up here, how they impact the district, the classroom, the personnel. And thank you for those changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Etrish.
And with that, I'm going to I make a motion that we approve the corrections to the 25-26 work calendars. Do I have a second? Thank you.
I second, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. And how do you vote, Ms. Cantu?
I vote aye.
Thank you, Ms. Cantu. And Board Member Romero, how do you vote on the corrections to the calendar?
Due to us breaking Arizona state statutes and our own policy, I will be abstaining.
Thank you, Mrs. Romero. Let the record reflect that is an abstention. And please do understand that these are continually corrective actions that need to take place based on previous decisions that the board has made. And Ms. Garcia, approval of the corrections to the 25-26 work calendars. How do you vote?
I abstain.
Thank you for your abstention. Please let the record reflect. And I vote aye. And so we approve the calendar. Ms. Hernandez.
Thank you.
Did I not let you vote?
No.
So how do you vote, Ms. Hernandez?
I vote aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And motion carries. And going on to G, reports, summary of current events. Mr. Watson?
Okay, Madam President, if we could. Okay, we're going to start with bond expenditures. There was a request from the board.
Excuse me, I have a question before I forgot to ask. Who is in charge of the calendars? Dr. Etheridge.
We have a calendar committee. Dr. Etheridge, would you like to talk about? Is it?
We've moved on, however, but go for it.
Madam President, and the governing board, there you go. Madam President, Governing Board Member Garcia. Generally, HR is in charge of the work calendars, so HR would kind of oversee those. I know they work in collaboration with finance. So for the November 7th, I know at that time Deputy Superintendent Hadagi and Ms. Farrar worked on those work calendars together. And then when we brought those back, we did form a committee just to have it. When you look at those calendars, you look at the numbers, it all kind of starts blurring together. So we brought back a committee to have multiple people look at those calendars.
So did our executive director of HR put that committee together?
Madam President, Board Member Garcia, yes. For this current one, yes, she worked on putting that committee together.
Okay, and she's no longer here. Thank you.
And Ms. Garcia, just to further clarify, there are, and we're going to be diving deeper. There's a whole lot of issues, I think, aside from the one calendar. I just wanted to bring that up for discussion so that our stakeholders are aware that when we make decisions, I want us to look maybe deeper into how it's going to implicate the district in general. Those are just corrective actions, but since that has been approved, we're going on to item. Thank you, Dr. Etheridge. And going on to Mr. Watson, you were going to.
Yeah, Madam President, we had a request to present some data on the bond that was approved by voters in 2000. It was a $60 million bond, and we are going to present some information on that. There we go. Okay, so in November of 2020, voters authorized $60 million. When we go out for bond sales, we just don't do it all at once, but we do it kind of phase it in. And this is just a chart, and this is in the board documents. This is available to the public if they want to see in the board documents when those bonds were sold and which year, and just those numbers year by year. And
Mr. Watson, before moving forward, could we look at that?
Absolutely.
So the bonds that we've expended are the bonds sold. And carry forward is the amount remaining on those?
So, Madam President, yeah, we sell the bonds for a certain amount of money, and then we begin to make those purchases that we've So there's a vote. I know too much about this, actually. There's a voter pamphlet. So a governing board decides to go out for a bond or an override, and in this case, a bond. And the board, when they vote to go out for a bond, they put together just a desired use of the bonds that they put in this pamphlet. The pamphlet then goes out to voters, and then the voters read the bond information and read what the purpose of the bond sales will be. And this is almost kind of like getting a loan. You get out a loan and then you slowly pay it back over time. If you need to do any large capital expenditure, if you need to build a building, a gymnasium, renew a fleet of buses, oftentimes it requires just one large amount of money to be able to make that purchase. And so that's school districts have that availability to be able to make that purchase through the sale of bonds and then slowly pay it back over time. And then the taxpayers are slowly helping to pay the district, helping to pay the amounts back over time. And so these are the bond sales, and anything that isn't used in that year gets carried forward and then is expended on additional projects. These are some of the bond projects. So this is the, oh, yeah, no problem. Yeah.
I'll ask you the question at the end.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
I have a quick question. When these bonds are taken, you know, for whatever that's it's needed for, who approves it or who does it go by first? You said by the district. I think you mentioned something.
So absolutely, Madam President, Mr. Hernandez. So yes, the governing board decides to put it on the ballot for the voters. The voters then decide, and then it goes to it goes through a process through the county and through other entities to basically sell public bonds that are purchased by investors. Generally, these bonds are looked at as a pretty good investment by people who want to invest some money long term, because we are a government entity, and government entities are usually really good about paying back the amounts. And so this is generally viewed as a safe investment for people looking to buy bonds to make a little bit of money back long term.
Okay, thank you. And then we're expected to pay back. How do we pay back? Is it where does the money come from the paying back?
Yeah, Madam President, Mr. Hernandez, it comes from the taxpayers. So every tax-paying business and individual within the borders of the Cartwright Elementary School District are taxed at a little bit higher rate to be able to pay that bond back over time.
Thank you.
Yep. These are some of the projects that were indicated in the bond pamphlet on how the money would be used. And we're going to look at some more specific ways that it's been used. So we have safety and security, and this came in the form of fencing. And so we needed some upgraded fencing just to provide safety to our students. It also went toward, if you see the safety netting that is over each fence throughout the district, that was also part of that safety and security and fencing project.
Do you know how? Sorry, I'm just gonna be.
Madam President,
kind of like questions
Hernandez,
are coming to mind. Do you know? I see 3 schools here, 2 with regular with the fencing, and then the other with the cover. Do we know? I know it's I don't know who this go towards, but do we know how many schools got like new fencing or the ones that have the covers?
Madam President, Mr. Hernandez, Dr. Medrano, would you like to? You look like you're pulling that down, ready to say something.
Sure, no, absolutely. Madam President, Board Member Hernandez, every school received a new version of perimeter security fencing.
Thank you.
Dr. Medrano, would you please explain why we were so intentional about our safety measures?
Madam, first of all, if you could go through the chair, the president. Ms. Ms. Garcia, when recognized. Before moving. When recognized, if you could please go through the chair, the president, and that would be me. Dr. Medrano, I'm going to allow for it. There may be deeper questions going in. Dr. Medrano, I believe there was a question that one of our board members asked.
Yes, thank you, Lydia, everyone in attendance. Dr. Medrano, would you mind explaining why there was an urgency to provide the safety measures that we approved, this board approved? Thank you.
Yes, Madam President, Board Member Garcia, just a little bit of background on the security upgrades that we did throughout the district. So as in response to the horrible tragedy in Uvalde, Texas in May of 2022, I believe, following that, it weighed very heavily on all of our hearts across the country and no less in our district. And so at that time, it was determined that as a district team, that we would convene a school safety task force that consisted of staff members, some administrators, teachers, some of our SROs, a few parents, just to kind of start a conversation on and take the pulse of what our safety infrastructure looked like across the Cartwright Elementary School District, keeping in mind this horrible new reality that we're all having to contend with now in active shootings. And so through a process of meeting with the school safety task force over a course of several months and continuing those meetings into a couple of years, some of the common feedback that we were getting for as far as vulnerabilities were concerned were that some of our campuses that were built in the 60s and 70s as a kind of an open concept, they didn't lend themselves well to our safety needs now. So just as an example, Palm Lane Elementary School would be one example. Peralta, in front of some of our classrooms, there was just a 4-foot high chain link fence, which couldn't serve as much of a deterrent for somebody that had bad intentions. So we took that feedback into consideration and started to set the wheels in motion to procure getting a combination of minimum 6-foot high fencing at all of our districts, and in those areas of greater concern, front facing areas, doing some wrought iron so that we also were including some aesthetics along with the safety purposes. And then also the privacy screens were put on there just as an added measure to be able to contain, to prevent outsiders from being able to look in and cause any potential problems while our kids or staff are on campus.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Medrano.
Miss President and fellow board members, people in the audience, just for the record and to share, I'd like to share something. I do like the idea of this. I think it was very important for our school district. I think it's safe to say that we do not live there's a lot of outside noise in our community. And I'd like to share, I know somebody in a neighboring district who I think this is very important, very necessary for our schools. And she experienced, they have the fencing, the old style fencing at their school. They had to change afterwards after this, but it's a neighboring district. And at one point there was a man who was looking at kids while at recess through the fencing. And he was able to, I think he was like chasing kids after school. And this particular person that I know got chased from her, got chased. I mean, God knows what would have happened if she got caught. So I think this is very important. I do love it for our schools. Just wanted to make it a record, to put it on the record. But thank you for that. I think that's necessary.
And if I may, my apologies. I think another important piece that I forgot to add was our parent advisory council as well. In those meetings, they provided us a lot of feedback and concerns about those same types of vulnerabilities. So my apologies.
No, thank you, Dr. Medrano. I just continue to have just the concerns regarding, I'm, and again, it's moving forward, asking our board to do our due diligence in terms of the bigger picture of the use of our either technology with our cameras, with all safety related safety measures. Because what I've been doing is, as we're going through the, our budget list and our contracts, I'm finding that, we are getting, we need security cameras for either buses, or we need security cameras for some of the buildings because they're tending to break. Some are no longer available. The product, it's already, it goes, what do you call that? It's obsolete, and so they changed. And so what we're doing is I'm seeing that we're purchasing different items, probably being more not as cost effective, but we really need to have a deeper, maybe study session, deeper conversation about how all this comes into play together. There are products out there where the products are interfacing each other, and all by one provider. So just food for thought for us moving forward. Not that this is not a bad idea; it's needed. I think anybody would agree. It's just that my concern is, in the absence of a deeper conversation. I understand that we had, right after these were concluded, we did have somebody come on campus and assault one of our cafeteria workers. So I mean, if the door's open, they're going to walk in. It doesn't matter whether we can have the state of the art, but there are, I guess, being more comprehensive and cost effective. and we'll continue to work with. Thank you, Mr. Watson. But
Yeah,
because I know there's more questions
yeah.
about the bonds, but go ahead.
Some additional information. We've got some more examples of renovating our restrooms throughout the district. And once again, this presentation is publicly available as part of the agenda. So renovation of drop-off and pickup locations at some schools, and towards the end, we'll actually have a breakdown by school of in a chart, so you'll be able to see how much was expended per school. Renovation of office buildings at Frank Borman. Renovation of cafeteria, cafeteria remodels. This has been a pretty popular one among students and staff, as tables and graphics and different things were promoted in the school colors with the school mascot, and just some of the tables, if you can see in that picture, offer kind of an alternative dining experience for our students. And instead of just maybe a traditional long table. Renovation to the athletic field. So we have Borman was recently our track and field site where we had our district championship competition, and in part because it's a beautiful field and a beautiful track with the rubberized material. And also, we got a couple of new gymnasiums at our middle schools. Here are some of the project costs before we get to the per school breakdown, some of the project costs and where the money went. I'll just pause here for just a moment for anybody who wants to check it out. And, it's interesting. I will add, some of these things might not seem, really sexy, but are necessary in the, operation of a school district. Who wants to spend money on flooding mitigation? We'd rather do something additional to make our cafeterias look special or build a new gym. But if we don't do flooding mitigation, we're going to spend a lot more repairing some of our other projects, or fire alarm replacement. That nobody's excited about that, but keeping our kids safe is paramount in everything that we do. And so it's terrific to be able to have this opportunity to fund some of these upgrades and replacements. Here are some project costs continued. And here is a cost breakdown by school. And I just want to confirm with Dr. Etheridge before I say it out loud. Well, I'm going to say it out loud. The Atkinson number, does that include? That includes the event center. Okay, so everybody don't get too mad at Atkinson for spending $7 million there, but that is the site of our event center that will be a benefit to every school in the district as we host events and activities there. And so, Dr. Weiss, you're good. And did that replace the other piece that we had on there? Okay, it did. Yeah. And we're happy to answer any questions you might have. There is an additional spreadsheet in the agenda that further breaks down by school the different projects. Madam President, I think.
Madam President, Mr. Watson, I want to say out loud, I don't know if the audience have a good view of all the schools that were granted all those remodels or millions of dollars to it. But may I say it out loud, please? The amount for every school. And just because for information purposes, we've been questioned here that that how is the money it's being spent, and I want to say it out loud. And then I move to another question after that. Thank you.
Ms. Cantu, and I think what we're looking at is this the entirety of the 60 million?
Madam President, this is the lion's share. I think we have unencumbered right around $2.5 million unencumbered. So this is the most of the $60 million that were approved by the voters. And so Atkinson, we spent $7 million. Barry, which houses our Head Start program, $537,000. Borman, $8 million. Cartwright, $1.8 million. Castro, $2 million. CECC, $600,000. Davidson, $1 million. Desert Sands, $4.4. The district office, $400,000. The office annex, $66,000. Downs, $5.5 million. Estrella, $1.6 million. Flor de Sol, $244,000. Harris, $6.6. Heather Bray, $1.2. Holiday Park, $1.6. John F. Long, $1 million. Palm Lane, $2.4. Pena, $1.7 million. Peralta, $1.3 million. Spitalny, $2.8 million. Starlight Park, $1.5 million. Sunset, $888,000. Tarver, $1.0 million. Tomahawk, $856,000. The Training Center, $1,446, and transportation, $509,000. And this all is just benefits all the school sites, $242,000.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. And then that follows my second question. The first page, we go to this board begins on January 15th, correct? Can you elaborate on the years that this money was spent?
Madam President, Ms. Cantu, I don't think we have that information in this presentation on the exact years that these specific projects were done.
Not the specific, just the amount of money that was spent on those years there are on the slide.
So yes, we have spent we've spent 600 or $60 million in the last 4.5 years.
So on 2021, 22, it was the total of $14,600,000, $566, correct?
In 21, 22, yes.
In 22, 23?
2020 as well. It began 2020.
Oh, it began in 2020. That's correct. 2020, 2021.
Yeah, Madam President, Ms. Cantu, so the voters approved the sale in 2020, but actual bonds weren't sold until 2021.
Perfect. And how much was that?
So the bonds in 2021 that were sold were for $15 million. Or the first bond sale was for $15 million.
Okay. On 2021, it was beginning of $13,926,665, and bonds sold for 15.
15.
Can we spend more than what we carry over?
Madam President, we can spend all the money that is sold through bond sales.
Okay. So every year there was the total is a carry forward, right? Or the expenses, right?
Dr. Etheridge, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, Madam President, Vice President Cantu. So the year, so let's take 2020, 2021, for example.
Yes.
The voters, the voters authorized the $60 million in November 2022. The governing board authorized the sale of $15 million of those bonds in 2021. So those bonds sold are not the expenses. That's the revenue coming in from the bonds sold. Then the expenses is what we spent as the Cartwright School District to give us the carryover amount, which was left over in 2021. So then you carry that over to the beginning balance in 21-22. So we started with almost 14 million in cash in 21-22 from the prior year. Then we sold another $15 million of bonds to give us $29 million in cash. And then we spent 14 million. So we had 14.6 remaining to carry over to the next year, and so on and so forth.
So throughout the year 22, 23, 24, and 25, it was a total expense of that money. It was a total expense of $57,648,595, correct?
Madam President, Vice President Cantu, that's correct.
And all that money equals to all the expenses that we made to every school?
Madam President, Vice President Cantu, the total on that spreadsheet, or the total in the schools, or the total in the projects, however you want to look at it, they equal that 57.6 million, correct?
And thank you, Mr. Etheridge, because that I had asked about why my taxes were increasing on my on my home, and I didn't get an answer to that. So this really opened up for clarification, because it's important that people, we, not because we're on the dais, we touch money. So what it's done is done. We're just here to do the best we can with what is left. So thank you for the clarification, Mr. Etheridge. Thank you, Madam President.
Question, Dr. Etheridge. So the balance remaining is 2,458,000. We had our last project that was going to be taking place at Atkinson, the gym. Is that the amount that's going to go towards that, or not?
Madam President, the number, the total 57.6, that does encumber what we expect to spend on the gym. So that is the 2.5 would be left over after the gym is completed.
Okay, because that is something I just questioned that I saw, and if I may, the gym is also the amount I think that was identified we were going to pay was 5 million, right? But that number has since increased, as everything else that I've seen contracts. The trend that I'm seeing is that those amounts are not applicable anymore. They've grown, they've changed, and why? Because I asked why did why the change in this case in terms of the gym?
Madam President, I don't know if Dr. Medrano wants to chime in on some of those. I think there are some additional costs, and unfortunately, when you look at construction, there are certain things that come up. I know one example would be a sewer line that went through the gym, and because of the age of the building, how it was sloped was not correct, and so it was causing backups to the sewer line back into Atkinson, the Atkinson cafeteria. There was sewage so that whole thing needed to be redone, which until they started digging up that ground, they didn't realize that was something that needed to be fixed. So there are certain things like that come up, with construction costs to increase that. But I don't know if Dr. Medrano has any additional examples.
And before going on to Dr. Medrano, when did we approve that? The expenditure, I think, for the gymnasium.
Madam President, I believe that was last year, correct? I think we did the event center approval for the governing board last year.
Okay.
Yeah, Madam President, members of the board, I believe the pre-construction services agreement was approved, if my memory serves me correctly, last May, just to get the design process going, and the construction company and the architects working together on the renovation plan. The actual construction project, again, I can go back and research this, but I believe it was August of 2024 that we approved the actual project itself. And then speaking to what Dr. Etheridge was saying a little bit earlier about cost, there was significant infrastructure corrections that needed to be made in the gym space, specifically related to plumbing. But none of that cost exceeded the guaranteed maximum price that was approved in August. The amount that's stated on the presentation, I think that is above the 5.9 million guaranteed maximum price that had been approved. I'm not sure how the audio visual system was coded or not, but that's a significant cost that was outside of the scope of the construction project itself. It was being done out of a separate fund, but I don't know if there was other components to the project not within the construction scope that may be like additional pieces onto the project that may account for some of the amount that's showing above the guaranteed maximum price.
Right, and just know that I'm just looking at the numbers, and when they're not matching up, I'm asking the questions. But and especially because we're hiring so many companies that involves the engineering firm, doing their due diligence, setting up the building. But my concern back in the fall, in August, October 3rd, October, 17th, November 7th, the slew and the amount of decisions that we were running to approve without doing our due diligence, to me just seemed, wait a minute, I know we were in a rush. And I did the same thing that Ms. Garcia is doing. I was abstaining and not voting simply because, again, the deeper implications that making decisions in a rush to hurry state end up having on the district. And I'm getting to see that now because I wasn't privy to that information, but I'm getting to see the implications. And when you add one contract to the next, over the next, over the next, and then finally it's over and done with. But I'm looking at the remaining balance and the last project, and I'm seeing that um, it's exceeding as well. So I asked the question, why? What happened? And Dr. Etheridge.
Madam President, if I may. Dr. Madonna, thank you for bringing that up, because that is one thing that I do think is important to note is originally, before the event center was something that was going to be, a huge event center, is there was just going to be some renovations to like the audio visual system to the event center. So we started preparing and kind of going down that direction. And so there were 3 screens that were ordered, some projectors. And then when it changed kind of what that was going to look like, additional costs came in terms of the audio visual, in terms of additional screens, redoing the lens of the projector, and where it was going to hang and things like that. So there were some additional costs in the audio visual. Thank you, Dr. Medrano, to fit what we were going to do into the event center space.
And Dr. Etheridge, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the infrastructure was not able to sustain the visuals that you would think that we're going to have a state-of-the-art gym, but with no screen. So we didn't have the infrastructure, didn't have the capacity to hold on, to carry, I guess, those out visuals.
Madam President, you're absolutely correct. When we originally had the company come out to quote what it would take to hang, they provided us a quote. And then it came back when they actually got up there to take a look, they realized we were going to have to reinforce that structure in order to hang those screens.
Thank you, Dr. Reza. One of many of the questions that I've asked, just to give, I want to be transparent and be able to have this open conversation with our stakeholders, because there was a concern, and we have an individual, a community member that has addressed the board repeatedly, wanting to know the answers and wanting to know how those dollars, because she is a taxpayer, how those dollars are being spent. Something that, although I'm in favor of looking at always in favor of anything, never going to turn any of the money down when it comes to renovations or building up, our school district, because we do have to compete with our, with other schools in the area that are taking their, that are sometimes have the bright, shiny buildings and are able to offer perhaps, that in itself. But my concern, again, I have another question before going there, because I've got concerns all over, especially with taxpayers are concerned, because another public venue that we had we had an Arizona town hall, the House of Representatives, and there were stakeholders there present, and they were concerned about, uh, you know, as a parent in one of our schools, she had been told that they were going to be building. I'm not. I don't know what exactly it was, but the fact that I was a new incoming board president serving for the first time in over maybe over 10 years. Um, wasn't able to answer. I said, "Well, come to our, keep coming to the meetings, ask your questions. Um, we'll be able to tell you. I can tell you that everything has been expended. It's spent." And she was angry. I'm going to say upset, concerned, because she had been promised that there was going to be a project that was going to be built at her school. Um, and I'll wait for the second question. If you could tell me, Mr. Watson, do you know? Are you aware? And I think I shared the parent might have addressed it with you as well. I just want to make sure that why we're sharing this and um, ensure that this is what it was spent on.
Yeah, Madam President, Governing Board, um, this is, we wish we could do everything all the time. And we wish we could have, every project at every school or every maintenance item that we see need to be repaired, fixed at every time. And I can't speak to what promises were made prior to my arrival. That individual community members were made certain promises, but I know that just the cost of just doing business has gone up as a result of a variety of things. COVID increased prices on lumber, construction projects. Um, Without wading into current political scenarios, tariffs might impact the district. Um, when the voters of Arizona, which I completely honor and support, voted to increase the minimum wage, that had a huge impact on school districts, and the result to I think adequately pay and support our classified our ESPs. But that had a huge impact. So just the cost of doing business is going up every day. And I think some of the projects that were intended for the district kind of went by the wayside along the way. And also, it was mentioned earlier that the Uvalde situation that happened after the original approval for bonds increased our desire here in the district to spend money on safety. And so other projects, suffered as a result. And I think some of those projects were people were looking forward to.
And just to follow, Ms. Cantu, I saw your hand, but just let me know. So it's not that the identification. I think was probably another question as to how who the process in terms of how who participated in the selection of the projects or deemed them priorities, because you can look at the number expended by school. um, Dr. Etheridge, were you on that committee, um, or can you explain the process in terms of how we identified?
Yeah, Madam President. So when the superintendent, the old superintendent first came on board, she did some listening tours across each of the school sites and created some, wants and needs and things like that from each school site. Along with that, the parent advisory council that she had to get some advice. To my knowledge, there wasn't a committee that talked about bond projects, but it was a combination of listening tours and parent advisory council and things like that.
And just for myself to my disclaimer to express my continued concern, but it's over and done with because the money's been expended. Is not necessarily that I don't want to, or myself, that I'm not in favor of renovating our schools. If whatever we can utilize to best improve our district is great. Again, just the due diligence in the absence for me personally as an elected school board member and having a fiduciary responsibility to the voters that approved their tax-paying money to go towards these bonds and then having to pay for them. Being that we live in our district that we do, where our homeowners are one paycheck away uh, from from losing their home. Okay, especially in our current conditions, given we don't know how that's going to fluctuate. But I've always asked my fellow board members that we ensure that we include our families in that conversation. There is, and I think there was a question at one of those hearings that a parent asked, how do we find out how well, and one of the other people that were present said or shared, you know what, but it's part of this bond expenditure process. The district needs to advertise and make you aware when you're going to be having that conversation at the district, because by law it's required. However, I remember having the conversation, or the conversation that was here at the dais was that we had to advertise in a small, Glendale paper. No problem. Not. I'm not complaining about the scope of the paper, but it is not in Maryville where our taxpayers and our families live. So that was a big concern for me moving forward. And also, in the absence of a strategic plan that identifies the needs of the district. In terms of how to best utilize these monies. I understand that, and if you could add, please explain to us the process by which we get to expend these monies. So it's the way it was written. We cannot spend it in any other way aside from the way it was written, right? But at the same time, so our current existing budget, and it's restricted, by the way, we can only spend it on that, which is why we showed the slides every year here at the dais. I listened to a report that showed the taxpayers and our stakeholders how it was being spent. I don't never had a problem with that. It's just in the absence of those families understanding that, because we're finding out they've been very upset coming to repeated meetings, accusing the board of not being transparent, and some of us also partaking in that when we know we have a process. I just want to be above board, and this is not something that I spent, that we have access to. It was decisions that were made as a district coming forward to address some of the needs, for safety and security, and the building renovations that were needed. We weren't, we went on for many years without that. Certainly needed, but these are. Could you also explain, if you're able to, either Mr. Watson or Dr. Etheridge, whomever can, prior to, my understanding is prior to 2020, before getting these bond monies, we also had, I believe we had a past bond that was either 7 million or if not 15, or there were two that equaled 15 million over the course of the previous, I think 2010 to that date, to 2020.
Yeah, Madam President, on November 2nd of 2010, the voters approved a $8.9 million bond.
8.9. And so, and that was spent in the same fashion in addressing the needs of the district, the way it was written. Just in 2020,
Madam
we were
President,
blessed, I should say.
I apologize, and I
Sorry,
don't mean to interrupt.
Ms. Hernandez.
I apologize. Sorry. I just wanted to ask a question on that. So that is only, you said, I'm hearing you referring to written. Is that like the way the law, the way we can spend the 60 million? Like it has to be on like the gym renovations, like the office renovation. Or how does the
Yeah, Madam President, Ms. Hernandez. So when the governing board decides to go out for the bond, they decide what categories that they want to support that in, and then that gets published in the pamphlet, and that's what actually goes to the voters. And so the voters, when they vote, they are reading the bond is going to be spent to upgrade gyms, is going to provide security cameras or new fencing. Usually they aren't that specific to say a new event center at Atkinson or upgraded fencing at John F. Long. But there are very specific kind of categories that it is in. And so the school district does have a responsibility to the voters, to the board, to the community to spend that money as indicated in the bond pamphlet.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you for that. But adding to that, I participated in a discussion with all the administrators and district office personnel, and the way that we originally agreed, and identified, our needs was through. In fact, I still have it, but it was through use of a sticky. So we were able to. Play sports, have an open conversation of how this money could be utilized. And we were able to place our sticky of interest, and whatever area got more stickies was something that obviously people wanted. There was furniture, there was again in generalities, and then there was discussions held at district office, and to identify those with most need. And I want to stress that certainly we had a great need, or else this wouldn't have been put together in the previous years, because in order to put something like this together is cumbersome work, and it's not the district, but legally the district is not involved in asking our taxpayers and putting this and going through an election process and putting it up for it to appear on a ballot so that the voters can vote on. So this was done previous to 2020 and 2019. And going into the election of, was it 2019 or 2020, maybe November of 2020. And that's exactly coincidentally when the leadership change took place. Ms. Hernandez, you have a question?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, you're saying who got together to the sticky notes? Who got to?
It was our administrators, board members, whoever chose to attend. Sorry, whoever chose to attend, district administrators, executive team. I mean, as a district, we came together.
Okay.
And we had a lot of, it was exciting
Right.
because we, I back then, if you would have had me look, and I couldn't even fathom how much that was going to be expended, how it was going to be identified. But it really upgraded our district, and it brought the security that we needed. It did all that.
Yes. Madam President, I
Yes.
do want to say, we have been as a district open for 100 years. So, we are expected to need some renovations to give the best quality, of education, most importantly to our kids. I see all this money wasted and great things that we've definitely spent. Sorry. And great things that we've definitely needed, as a district. However, with the last meeting that we have, my concerns is what are these? I would like to honestly get an update on our kids from our teachers. How is this changing the environment in the classroom or emotionally and academically? Do we see improvements, with the new lunchrooms? I was proud to see it when I went to Atkinson, being that I went to Atkinson myself, but how is, I'm sure they're very proud. But I'd like to get a good feeling on what the
That
improvements
would
are.
be an agenda item, a future agenda item, right?
Oh, thank you. Oh.
Well, and yes, and most certainly, because that is what's being planned, because we are going to be getting together this in the same fashion, just district wide, to be able to have this kind of conversation to put together a strategic plan with that feedback provided. So it's going to be a great opportunity, because in no way is this a reflection of something that was not needed. My concern has just been that we apply our due diligence and put it through roll it out or develop it through a strategic planning session, so that we are strategic to ensure that it's going to have the impact that it's going, getting the most bang expense, for our dollar spent. Ms. Cantu?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, executive team, all in the audience. First of all, I just want to clarify that for previous comments to the board or that my tax property taxes doubled from 22, 23, 24, and 25. It went from 1,000 to 2,000. So, and looking at this number, it makes sense, correct? Looking at these numbers because that's how we pay for this bond money through property taxes, correct? So just for clarification. And yes, to Ms. Hernandez's question, how has that, all that investment in the uh, structure in the schools, it's needed. Like you mentioned, it's 100 years old. I understand that. But when we talk about a district, our main focus has to be on a strategic planning, which we did not have for the last 6 years. And a strategic planning, like Mr. Hernandez explained, give you a focus and how to impact all those
Can we get back
additions.
to the agenda, please? This is outside of the agenda.
Mrs. Garcia, I am the board president and I will choose. It is a germane to the conversation. Continue, Ms. Cantu.
We have to focus on what its priority, and in any district, a priority, it's the students and must be the students. And how are we getting the best out of those kids to be a successful individuals, not only for this community, for the whatever they decide to go, at least prepare them with the most basic stuff so they can survive in the world. And right now we have 96% of kids not able to read and write.
Ms.
So
Hernandez, I have a question regarding the presentation
Ms.
that was
Garcia,
just
point of order,
delivered.
please.
I'm
Please,
still waiting.
can we allow for her to finish?
I would appreciate that. Thank you. Please do
Thank
so.
you to your interruption. Please, thank you.
Excuse me, Lydia. You interrupted your daughter moving. Why was that?
Ms. Cantu,
Was there a reason why why you disrupted this meeting to move her? Can you please explain? Can you please explain to the public why was this meeting disrupted to move your daughter?
Point of order.
Point of order.
Do you understand what that means?
you will
I do
understand that
understand what that means. I do, but you keep disrupting as well, and you're very
You know
rude.
what? I'm sorry. Can't even get through the bond
Exactly. I have a question, and I've been waiting patiently to address Dr. Etheridge. So at one point, I would like to address.
Point of order.
I would like to address Dr. Etheridge. Thank you,
Mr. Etheridge. There is
We will be resuming the governing board meeting, the current governing board meeting. Please let the record reflect that it is 8:22 p.m. And just to summarize the discussion that's been had here today regarding the, I'm sorry, and I didn't include who was present. Please let the record reflect that all 5 board members are present before continuing. But the importance and the response to our stakeholders that have been asking the questions as to how much was spent, who spent it, what it was for. I hope that we've answered all those questions, including some that we as board members had. And just to recognize the amount of $60 million without having a plan in order to identify. I hope that moving forward, I want us to engage in just that conversation. It's going to overlap into other conversations as we're moving into discuss our financials as we further discuss the implications of our previous decision that were made. Mr. Watson,
question, Ms. Hernandez. I have a question.
Mr. Watson, I believe that you have an update regarding student enrollment, recruitment, and retention.
Lydia, I have a question regarding the presentation. We were still in discussion before you called a recess. And the question is germane to the presentation.
We are going to,
the question was to Mr. Etheridge,
of order.
To Dr. Etheridge, if he could elaborate on the Atkinson Event Center, what that looked like as far as funding goes from the county. That's important. I believe the public would like to hear that. Thank you.
Should we stop the meeting, Madam President? Cancel the meeting?
Not necessarily cancel, but we will make a note. We've resumed the governing board meeting, but obviously we cannot continue
Christine,
to conduct
were we still in discussion prior to the recess?
We cannot continue in this.
Because
I motion that we adjourn the meeting. We have pending items, but do I have a second?
I have a request before we adjourn the meeting. And
I stand corrected. I rescind my adjournment motion. Mrs. Cantu, what?
Second. Well, my request for Mr. Watson is it possible that we can send a complaint to the county attorney for the events that we are experiencing on these meetings? We've been not able to conduct a business meeting because of the disruption of Mrs. Garcia.
I would appreciate that, Ms. Cantu, especially because Lydia is very much a part of this.
Moving forward,
And
I second that motion.
And today she just topped it off by harassing another younger board member, and that is not acceptable.
How did I harass
Ms.
her,
Cantu?
Rosa?
Ms. Cantu?
Rosa, you are.
I'll second the adjournment, Mrs.
No, you second. We will make notes. We will make
from
notes
your daughter, Lydia,
of continued direction from the board majority to the acting superintendent, Mr. Watson. And I motion that we adjourn today's meeting due to not being allowed to conduct our business meeting. Ms. Cantu.
I second.
Second. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Call to the public.
Thank you.
Lydia
I've
Hernandez.
been waiting all night.
How do you vote?
Lydia
Call to
Hernandez.
public.
Lydia Hernandez.
Thank you, Ms. Cantu.
Lydia Hernandez. Lydia Hernandez. Lydia Hernandez.
Everyone
Yes.
wants to have a voice.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you. We have 2 abstentions, I believe.
No, I did not.
votes.
I did not say anything. I did not say anything. You cannot
Okay,
say
thank
my
you,
vote for me.
Ms.
I did
Hernandez.
not- I
How
did not
do you
vote.
vote? Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. And I vote aye, and the
I
meeting
did not
is
vote.
adjourned.
I did not vote.
Thank you.
Okay. First of all, I would like
Good
to
time.
bring to light the intimidation
These
tactics
elected
by
officials.
Steve Watson to my fellow board